name is Mona and I'm the founder at Appraised. At Appraised, we're trying to help people realize their full potential, find what they're good at, help them make that transition into a job that matches their strengths, and hopefully you excel in it. We want to build a community of people who have a passion for lifelong learning, who are ambitious, who want to raise their own bar. That's why we started this community called Your Third Place. We meet every month in an offline setup. Objective is to get to meet someone new you don't know, hopefully share that ambition and get inspired by each other. Today we have Harish with us. Harish needs no introduction, but I'll still introduce him. At every event, we try to find someone who embodies all these values, raising their bar, ambitious, playing for the global maxima, optimizing for it, and looking for excellence. Harish embodies all of them. Harish is many humans inside one human. He's an artist, he's a musician, he's a designer, he is an engineer by training, and this is what makes him super interesting. There are a lot of people who do a lot of things, but there are very few who excel at everything they do, and he's one of them. Which is why I said he fully embodies this value of excelling at whatever he takes on.
Can you hear me? Yeah. That's very generous of her.
It's not generous, guys. It's all over the internet. Actually, there are people, when I was telling them I'm going to introduce Harish, somebody said, I already know him as a musician. Someone said, I already know him as somebody who leads design at CRED. Somebody else said, I already know him as someone who worked previously at Google. I said, you guys all know pieces of it. And that is actually a very...
I think I hedged well for the monthly income.
So here is Harish. We're going to get started with, my first question is, how do you do it all?
No, but first of all, thank you. I think nice to meet you all. Thanks for coming on a Saturday
Evening, yes.
Saturday evening, and had it been any later, I'm very sure there are better things to do than this. But it's good to see the community coming together. Thank you, Mona, for putting this together. It's
very excited. Pleasure is ours.
And, I don't know. I mean, I think first of all, and thank you once again. I think, I try to do a bunch of things like she mentioned. Like I probably have most of my life is working at CRED as a designer, trying to build out this product. That's what I've been doing for the last 5.5, 6 odd years, like 5 years formally and 6 years informally. I do have a part of my life that I spend as a musician, and I'm also a father, husband, son. Like many of you, most of you are. So I think I'd start by probably like anything that you say on this, it's a very thin line because sometimes things will look very rhetorical and very, self-fulfilling, but sometimes it also sounds overtly modest when you actually want to say that it's, sometimes it'll sound very LinkedIn. So I'm being very, I'm being very, very cautious about this. Look, I think I am one of those fortunate humans through my 21 years in the industry have gotten good environment, good opportunities, and good leverage to do things that I'm passionate about. So I'll start by saying that I have had the fortune of good timing. I've had the fortune of chancing on or landing upon in my own skill. A part of it is my skill. Part of it is also cosmic realignment, if you may. That you end up in jobs and functions and teams and managers who are supportive of the pursuit that you want to embark on. Most of my life as a musician is big credits to my erstwhile managers who let me do this. Like, it's many of us who have worked as juniors would know it's a very thin line that an organization can actually foster and provide for your alternate interest, or the same organization could have an individual that'll come in and stifle that for you. So it's just generally luck. And I think I spent time in organizations that genuinely valued who I was as an engineer or as a designer, and also genuinely valued who I was outside of my time that I was spending in the office. So I'm super grateful to all of them. If I have been able to do anything, especially in my music, whatever little I'm able to do is thanks to the people in the respective employers that I got a chance to work with, my managers, and so on and so forth. The other bit is, of course, like, as cliched and sometimes overtly celebratory as it sounds, I have a good support system. My family took care of me really, really well. My family takes care of me really, really well. My my parents, my wife, my child, the people who are around me, my friends, my bandmates, everybody takes care of me well, allows me to do my thing, and provides the forum and opportunity for me to freely go and express. So if I were to just summarize the two things that sets me up to do what I'm doing right now, those would be these two things. Lacking these, irrespective of my ambition, irrespective of my ability or my drive to do things, it would have been pretty difficult. I mean, I had it conducive because these two things sort of came together. In addition to that, to some bit that I don't want to leave it all to, like, I don't want it to sound like I had no role in this. I did. I think I worked very hard for this. I continue to push myself very hard. I am very ambitious, very hard to satisfy kind of person. I generally don't have a sense of happiness with anything I have. So I always need more. So I have always lived my life chasing more, and I continue to chase more, which is why I'm here on a Saturday evening, because it's nice to meet you guys, get some context from you, get some insights, have a conversation. So always looking for more, always, and selfishly because it helps me. And in the process, if I'm able to give something back and people can get something from me, that's great. But I do absorb a lot, sometimes absorb more than what I can give. So that keeps me going. That's how I do it. And lastly, look, I think I have been a very money-minded person all my life, and anything that kind of leads me to be monetarily successful, or puts me at a place of financial independence, or put me at a prospective route to financial independence, is of interest to me. So one thing that I did with my music was to try and find a way where it starts paying me. So I don't have any passion outside of monetizability. Um, my passion is generally up for sale. If it doesn't come with a price tag, it isn't something that I would pursue. And it is as direct as that. And a lot of people might disagree with that sort of a very objectified way to life, but then to each their own. That is who you have here. So I genuinely don't think there is a greater happiness than the happiness I define for myself. The happiness I define for myself is generally at a place where I have financial independence. So how do I do most of these things was Mona's question. I chase money in certain sense. So the route is fairly clear. You know where the profit pools are. You go after them and rework yourself
Very few people have this clarity.
Um, no, they do, but sometimes the Indian society generally looks down upon you if you said that. Like, at least like some of you from the north of the country from business families will still find it easy to talk money. But I come from a South Indian service household where talking money is as blasphemous as, like, talking several other things that you talk at home. So it has been hard for me in that way. But then look, you learn, you meet people, and I have seen wealthy people. I think they're doing pretty well. So yeah, why not? So yeah, and look, lastly, there is this whole time management myth, Mona. I don't manage my time that well at all.
There's no way you can get this much done. Everyone only has
I mean,
24
it always
hours.
comes at some compromise that you're making in your life. You can't, like, no cyborg can ever walk around doing 15 things very well together and then act like, oh, it is so simple, because I make mistakes. If I'm overtly investing in one side of it, the other side of me suffers. And when I invest on the other side, this side suffers. And more often than not, in my 30s, my family suffered. And something that I have pivoted back to right now, that should not be an item that I should push into the back burner to push for my own otherwise perverse ambition, as I just articulated 5 minutes ago. So I'm trying to do my best to be fair in the way that I'm chasing my ambition. But then, yeah, the short answer is, look, one thing suffers if the other one is getting attention. And I'm sure once I speak to all of you, which I hope to get a chance to interact with some of you, your story won't be different from mine. It is just that I was just mentioning this to Mona. In retrospect, every success story sounds very nice and every guy looks like a hero. So I just have had my share of few, which is why I'm sitting over here. That's about it. I think it could have been anything else. So that's where I would leave it.
You're being too humble, but I'm going to go back to the roots. What's fascinating is actually my introduction to you, Harish, was like I said, I'd watched a TED video of a talk you had shared, and
the thing that actually I got attracted to watching the video was because you started by talking about how you were the average kid who was pursuing excellence, and you came from a small town, from a family with sort of humble grounds. And what has that journey been for you, and how have you gotten to this point of excellence, and how have you built this bar for yourself? What inspired you around to get there?
Sure. I think you understand your average pretty early in your life. That's what I've understood. Like, you when you're in your kindergarten or when you're in your second standard, third grade, you sort of understand where you are in the bell curve, right? Like, and 90% of us, by the nature of that bell curve, is in the middle of that. So we are all, in certain sense, average people, and I think this whole world sort of runs on average people, if you may. But if there was way too much excellence, I do not know. It creates a different kind of problem, in my opinion. So I think I am very comfortable being the average person because I genuinely believe I am one. But I have only one difference that I have perceived in my life. I think it happens to a lot of small towners, if you may. Like, the biggest thing that small town upbringing, I come from a small village in Kerala, like one school, one bank, one post office, and everybody knows everyone kind of places where I come from. And I was born in the 80s. So you really, two kinds of people evolved from small towns. One that believe that, like, this is so beautiful, this is all I need. Um, it is filled with so much goodness, and this is the basically this whole contended, like, small village, so beautiful, people are nice, there's no malice, everybody knows everyone. And the second kind that evolves, which gets suffocated by that, because that familiarity started really ruining my own ambition, because I know everyone, and quite literally, it is not fun when you are in a small circle like that. So my biggest aspiration was to get out. Uh, and when you get out, you become worse because you're average in your village. So you go to a larger city, or actually, I don't know where you are. It gets much harder when you are.
Yes.
So I went to this city called Trivandrum when I was in my 12th standard. I mean, or 11th standard, if you may. And Trivandrum is a monumentally larger city to the place where I lived in, but Trivandrum is probably as big as Kormangla. So you you get a sense. So that's where I went. I think step by step I met people who probably wanted more from life, and I have been fortunate. And the more you meet them, more you speak to them, you feel less and less threatened by what you do not know. You feel more and more comfortable with what you can be. Like, and for a lot of us small towners, life is not that zero sum, because everything looks like a fresh opportunity. Like, zero sum occurs if you are in all kinds of privilege right at the beginning, and somebody is occupying that space, and then you do not know. You have to displace one person to get it. In my case, I didn't have to displace anyone. I just needed that small chair on the corner of the table. I didn't want the center table. So, I mean, not having a zero sum mentality is something that a person like me innately had. So that helped. And then again, I'll go back to that. I have been sometimes, how do I say it? I was discouraged being who I was because I was this overtly ambitious child, probably with not enough skills to back the ambition. Like, I was severely ambitious, but did not necessarily have everything I needed to be there. Sometimes there are ambitious, super talented people for whom things just get done. So I was the average boy with severely above average ambition. So it took its time. I guess it has taken long enough for me, but I just kept pushing. And for me, that is the thing. So being average is not a bad thing as long as you are not zero sum. If you're zero sum, it's really, really tough because every competitive dude wants that one seat and which that person is not willing to let go. And there are a ton of other chairs over there which are probably equally as nice. They are not your most premium viewing desk, but what the hell, they're nice too. So many a time people like me occupied them and found our way out, right? Like, while somebody was just fighting for the vantage, people like me don't fight for the actual vantage, but we fight for the corner seats, as they call, right? Like, and probably stick your neck out a little, you still catch the show. So that's what I am doing. That's what I did. I continue to do that. Yeah, I've had some success, I guess. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Oh my God, some success. Okay. I want to, one of the things that one is for you to have your own bar of excellence. The other is how do you translate that to people around you and inspire other people to kind of rise to that occasion? How do you do that for your team?
Sure, it's a thing that I'm very passionate about. Thanks for asking. I think every time I get a chance to speak to anyone about this, I am happy. Look, I think I personally believe that we are all brought up. If you have grown up in India through the 80s and 90s, the problem is um, we didn't come from a social or a socio-cultural environment where excellence was even a possibility, because we are generally in situations where we have to just improve upon the rather
Yeah.
low baseline that we have, and we need to push those baseline up. So generally pursuing excellence generally sometimes feels like a thing that you cannot do in your lifetime. So we all and the wrong vectors get celebrated. For example, every time somebody celebrates an ingenious but stupid innovation, something within me dies. Like, it comes directly at the cost of excellence. So every time somebody says, oh, such a cool thing, somebody's making omelette on an iron box, like it's ingenious because the guy probably doesn't have access to a tawa, but it's also something that comes straight at the way of what we call as quote unquote elegance, excellence, and whatnot. So in my head, I have always tried to question, why do it if it can't be done well? And that doing and I meet extreme friction from a lot of people I meet for having that position. So uh, I say it in a polarizing way so that it gets an audience. Like, in reality, maybe my position is not uh, that
Polarizing.
violently rational, but then I say it that way because that is the only way I get eyes and ears to listen to me. So I have a position by saying, if it is not beautiful, don't do it. And then a bunch of people will go up in arms at me by saying beauty is subjective. That's exactly what I want to hear, just so that then I can take the position and say how it is not. So, unless I trigger that statement, it is very hard to disprove that statement. So I do that. I mean, and for me, doing something well and showing something that is done really well is an easy sort of task. It is like just teaching your children virtue. Like, for example, if you taught your child that breaching a line and getting to a movie ticket faster done by somebody else is smart behavior, your child is going to absorb that and say that anybody who does that is smart. The Indian idea of jugaad comes exactly from there. Like, teen ka chair hai, chautha bita do. Oh, fabulous. Now 4 people are sitting. Now you are normalizing the fact that all I need is a seat of 3. I'll somehow adjust for the 4th person. What we should ideally do is, I need a 4th seat. How do you work to get that 4th seat? How do you get that wider road? How do you get that continuous electricity? Like, the ingenious adjustments that we do also comes at an extreme cost of us not wanting to have actually what should be the right solution. So imparting this is not that very tough. It's exactly like how you impart good values in your children, or how your parents taught what is right and what is not, and what is acceptable and what is not. So in my head, pursuing excellence, whatever that may be, excellence is a very out for interpretation term, right? Like, it can have multiple. It's like beauty standards. It kind of varies from person to person. But the ideal thing is, I have only one principle that I'm trying to impart to people that work with me. Uh, I want to say that here also. So I live with a very simple theory called everything is necessary. This has been my living principle. So my problem is, especially, I've heard this early in my life when I was an engineer and I had product managers. I used to get asked, why is this necessary? See, why is this necessary comes from a mind that operates on constraints. A mind that operates on constraints will be very, very tough to maneuver, to change, question, and create. because you have already applied the constraint. Once you've applied the constraint, you're only going to create with the constraint that's available. See, in my head, and this principle works for me, it may not work for you, you may disagree with it. All that is fine. It's a free world, and I think we should all have our respective positions. But for me, I always want to create without constraints because I honestly feel constraints will present themselves. Like, see, the point is, if somebody just asked me, Harish, do you want a Rolls Royce? I won't react by asking, why is it necessary? I said, yeah, give it. I'll take it. Give me the key. When do I ask, why is it necessary? I ask it when I don't have the money. When I can't buy it. It's almost like your neighbor's car is always unnecessary. That's because he has the money and you don't. So constraints are a function of what you cannot have. And always in your life, there will be things that you cannot have. But I'm a designer. I'm a product person. I don't build for what I can only have. I always design and create for what I cannot have. And then constraints will present itself. It's almost like my daughter saying, I want this. And then eventually I'm going to tell her, you can't have it. But if she only wished for things that she can have, she's always going to have something lesser than that. Which is why my principle to design my principal products has been, everything that is possible is necessary. But eventually, time to market, talent, money, resources, relevance, they will all play out as constraints. And the constraints will eventually take you to a place where only what is possible. But if you started at a place by saying, I have resource crunch, I have bandwidth crunch, I have time to market crunch, you are always going to hit 5 bars below what actually could have been possible if you stretched. So for my idea of pursuing excellence is, try to build something that you categorically know is not possible. And look, I do that I sing at weddings. It's a great cultural experiment that I have, because the most irrational spending happens at weddings. Because nobody's thinking from their head, right? It's a moment for your child, for your daughter, your son. So wedding negotiations are exactly like that. You always ask for something that is super irrational, like a marriage. You will always hit a number, a performance payment number, which is far higher than what you deserve. The only other team that you can work with, that is the HR department, because they also don't know how much anything is worth. So these are the two places where I have realized this model works really, really well. And why not apply it to building products, creating music? I mean, I'm nothing against HR departments. They have a budget. They have a budget that they have to spend, or they have a budget that they can't spend. So it is that same with weddings. For the floral arrangement, I am putting 10 lakh rupees. Now, nobody's checking what the florist's margin is. You really are not. You're going to spend the 10 lakhs. So might as well take the 10 lakhs, probably ask for 12 and provide for something extra. You actually get that margins coming your way. So I tell my team very simple, build like constraints don't exist, and constraints will present themselves where you will have to chip yourself away to something. And my learning for the last 2 decades has been that if you apply that style, you're always going to hit a bar which is higher than what you would have gotten if you started with the constraints. And this is an often contested worldview that I have. There are enough people who could give me empirical reasons as to why that will not work and why applying constraints is the right way to build. That's a happy conversation to have at another point in time. This is what I'm doing, and it works for me.
Does it work for your partners in product engineering?
Depends upon what state of mind are they operating in. Engineering, product design, all of them are belief systems. And any belief system that is too radical to adapt to change will not result in anything meaningful. There is no, it's almost like arguing what belief is right. I'm sure in this group of 50 people, I think there are at least multitudes of beliefs that we all hold. Unless we have some embraciveness of each other's belief, we will not be able to have a conversation. We are almost always at odds and perpetually fighting. So it works for engineering if you speak the language of what they are pursuing as excellence. It works for product managers if you are presenting your idea in a way as to what they believe is excellence and value. And if you speak to a designer, see, eventually it is like seeing an elephant from 3 different points. the problem is if one person is seeing a buffalo, then there is a problem. I think eventually everybody should be seeing the elephant only. But it's okay if I am seeing the head and you're seeing the tail. It is still fine because that's exactly what we are intending to do. So that is what my. But there are some people in design, in product, in engineering, who are not malleable because they have orthogonal belief systems, which are very hard to influence. See, for example, me with a ship fast, fail fast person is recipe for disaster. Because I come from a product school of thought where your MVP should be like your finished product. I'm like, even if you are making your car with thermocol, the guy who sees it should feel it is a real car. I come from that school of thought. So I can't just say ship a chassis with a chair and a steering and a pedal to check if it is working. Is not something which will ever work with me. So I am somebody that believes shit should look good first. Working, and I have this living alive theory, which I will tell you. So many a time I find it uncomfortable working with people who are optimizing for vitals. But let me ask you this question, and it's an interesting thing. A person with perfect pulse of 72 beats per minute, a blood pressure of 120 by 80 millimeters of mercury, a person under 90 of glucose levels, good levels of sodium, potassium, and who has about 23 breaths per minute, is he alive or is he living? Technically, a person in coma can have these vitals. For me, that is your ship fast, fail fast MVP. A product should be living. A living person dresses well. He or she wears makeup. They go and select shoes. They dance when a song is played. When it rains, they look up. When there is dirt on the ground, they try to move away. When they see something beautiful, they stop and look. When they see an act of kindness, they stop and appreciate it. When they see somebody in pain, they pain together. That is called living. So, which is why what humans perceive first is whether you're actually living or not. If you're just being vegetatively in a state, nobody really considers you living. So for me, how things look is how it all starts for the customer. So you cannot build a product without focusing on how it looks. And for me, how it works is like vitals. Like, you don't apply makeup on a dead body. So telling me, Harish, please check if it works already. I have checked. It is working. But now are you going to leave it sloppy because it is working? Please wipe it. Please clean the glasses. Please remove the finger marks. Please paint it well. Please make sure that the person who looks at it finds it attractive. So because of that, I am a very visual first person. I think everything that I have purchased in my life, everything that I have touched in my life, I have always perceived them basis how they look. Never basis how they work. Never. Not one thing in my life of 44 years have I made decisions basing how they work. Even the most fantastically working things, if they don't look good, I don't use them. And touch your hearts today, right now. Right now, many of you might have that but implicit moment of wanting to react. But take a deep breath, go home and ask. Leave digital products and ask yourself, have you ever bought a shirt because it is great terracotta? No, man, it's beautiful print. Have you ever bought a shoe which is very comfortable but looks like shit? No, because you wear that. Have you ever bought a car because it has got a V6 B12 turbo engine but has like a really terrible exterior? No. So it is always the order of it for some people might just get oscillating, but how something looks is very important. It's only digital product guys who have this weird fixation that बाद में time मिलेगा तो UI fix करेंगे. You freaking fix the UI first. Click of the button is an engineering problem. Like once the event is dispatched, he will catch the event and call an API. Very different problem. Don't conflate the problems. Your job is to make sure that the button is looking great. And the user can find the button and on click you can move forward. So don't conflate by saying I'll just put a hyperlink for the time being and make sure that everything is working. Things don't work like that. Why did I say this? If I ever have an engineering product partner who is very hardwired to say that, I don't even know this is what the customer wants, so let's not waste time on this, will never be successful with me. Because I come from a school of that if I do not know what my customer wants, I should not be in the job. I come from that extreme, left of center, right of center. I don't know what side of world this is. But if my team, I run a design team, if anytime my design team says, oh, I do not know, I really have to go and ask, as a reason for not knowing, I don't think they should be working in my team. Now, please don't get me wrong. It is okay to go and ask. Please go and ask as many times as possible to as much people as possible, get insights. But don't say that we never know. So always ask the customers a really stupid way to build products. Like, if I do not know what I'm building for the customer, I'll never be able to build it well. So which is why extreme qualitative research driven product development, I will never be successful there because I innately have no belief in it. And I believe that my teams and the person who's building the products, which is in CRED's case, 1,000 people, in some other companies' case, 2,000 people, some other companies, they should ideally know what their customer want. And if they do not know, you can't put the owners back and say that I'll go and ask, I'll go figure out and then create what they want. You'll pretty much only be creating for them. So when I say this, the nuance generally gets lost, but it's okay. My aim is also to leave it provocative like this. The nuance is not to do, it's to not suggest that don't do qualitative research. It is to tell you that please make your game better. Know a little more yourself. Don't generally put it all on the customer. Like, it is not to suggest that don't ask the customer. That would be really stupid. Go ask them, but don't take that as an excuse by saying, I have seen so many of this PM posts on LinkedIn. Like, my favorite entertainment forum is LinkedIn. So, so I go there and I sometimes see this wisdom be written. Any product manager that thinks he knows better than the customer is a stupid product manager. So let me make my LinkedIn statement. So if you do not know more than the customer, you're not in the right job. So because somebody else ticked me off, so here is my opportunity with the mic to tick that person off. Like, if you do not know the customer, what are you doing in product? If you do not know more than the dude, what are you doing in product? If you do not know more than the customer, what are you doing in design? Like, I will stop being in design if I am not sure if my design is right. The day I am wrong 5 times continuously on the same problem, I'll be out. I'll make fresh mistakes every day. That's okay. Don't repeat the same thing again and again. So, sorry, I sometimes get carried away, but yeah.
No, I think that was super. So I have a follow-up question on this. So you impart this in the team, you impart this as a value system, but how do you continue raising your own bar?
I see smart people every day, every single day, and it's almost mind-boggling. And I see them in different spheres at all ages. Sometimes I meet a 17-year-old designer and my mind is blown. And the first thing I do is, I don't necessarily believe in God, but I stop for a moment and pray that thank you for having chosen me to be born 40 years ago, because I otherwise would have to compete with this dude. And then what do I do? Like, some of the younger talent I meet, some of the newer bunch of product engineering design people that I meet, the first reaction I have is relief, very quickly moved by palpable fear, and then an extreme wish to learn. Because these are people who took to a computer when they were in 6th standard. Somebody started coding at the age of 13, and somebody who started drawing on Procreate when Procreate launched at that point in time. So I have a person in my team. She was in 9th standard when CRED started. She works for CRED right now. So, like, 6 years down, like, somebody has already gone so far. So my own bar is increased by people I meet almost entirely. I just realized that at every single moment, instance in time that I meet people, I'm invariably meeting somebody exceptionally smarter than me. It may not necessarily be in one line of work, but in varied facets of life. So some of the younger product people that I've met uh, uh, in my career recently, their reading is fantastic. Their insights are fantastic. The time that they have spent to understand, and combine that with some of the senior talent you have an opportunity who have gone there and weathered the storm, have more war scars to show. I think for me, it has been always people. It continues to be people. And because I have a very sort of, how do I say it, Mona? I keep myself volatile, because when I keep myself volatile, it opens the volatile side of people, and it will get them to speak something that they genuinely believe in, because there is really no attempt to drive agreement. One of the things that I'm doing in trying to come across extremely one-sided is also my own way of learning. So unless you provoke a thought in a person by being volatile, people will tend to sugarcoat it. People will tend to want to make it amenable to you. If you see, like somebody in this room just wants to make something very amenable to me, they will not say everything. They will just say, while I agree with you, there are blah. But if you provoke somebody, they'll be like, I completely disagree with you. And this is the reason 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That disagreement teaches me 6 different things. I may or may not agree with them. I may or may not absorb them. But the moment you have triggered people to actually disagree with you, or sometimes agree with you violently, both of them are fine. See, when people disagree with you, you learn. Like, otherwise you always create this, you scratch my back a little, I scratch your back a little, and then we all go home. In reality, none of the positions have gotten solidified. So if I leave a person or an audience with viewpoints that either gets them thinking or gets them to agree or disagree, I stand to benefit a lot. And in my head, I have positions I take, but I also don't believe I'm right always. I want my decisions to be right. I'm okay if my positions are pro and wrong. Like, if I readjust my decisions basis an alternate position, and then recalibrated my own position, I become a better person. I become a better product person. I become a better designer. Otherwise, you are a bit like radicalized human, right? I see radicalized designers, radicalized engineers, radicalized product managers. You don't learn. It is good to have a position, but you should be amenable to what an opposing voice is telling you. So I welcome that. I mean, I know that in the last 10, 15 odd minutes, I have said things that will pick a certain kind of interest in you or pick a certain kind of reaction in you. It is all by intent. Like, I used to sugarcoat that, or I used to muddle that by saying, while that is also a great way of building. Now I have taken that off my vocabulary. Now I start by saying that is not a great way of building. This is a great way of building, which then results in an insanely high quality conversation that comes back where people go step by step, retort, and sometimes empirically disprove what you're saying. And I stand to benefit from that. So if you triggered me, it's a good thing, because I might just rationally react back to you as to why my positions are XYZ. Because in Indian middle class context, which I'm kind of making a broad sweep here, maybe a lot of us, we are taught to be agreeable first, than be right. Like, somebody says a completely politically incorrect thing and he has gray hair and slightly looks like your uncle, you are taught to smile. You're not taught to tell the dude, like, dude, what are you saying? You're not supposed to say that. So we are not taught like that. We are generally saying, Arey, yaar, matlab, he is from a different era. He has different value systems. Whatever the era is, what is not acceptable is not acceptable. But you and I are not taught like that. We are generally told that, like, just hold back. So right now, what I'm trying, Mona, to your question, to raise my bar is throw myself out there a bit at the deep end, take a position. Either I swim to the shore or somebody will show me my place. Either which way, before I go to sleep, I have benefited. Like I have learned. And 3, 4 months later, you are like, what the hell? I can't believe 4 months later, 4 months before I used to say this. And it is so stupid. I don't know why I said that, but now I am far clearer. So this is what I'm trying to do. I think the long and short of it is people that I meet, and I meet a lot of them. I'm extroverted and I generally enjoy the company of strangers, no problem. Much against my mom's will. But I'm comfortable being told off by people as often as possible. And it has helped me. And I will continue to polarize because it has helped me form my perspectives better. It is a significantly selfish pursuit. And through the years, I have also gotten to a place where I'm right in a few things, despite being somebody who's not saying it the way. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you say things which are against conventional wisdom, but you also know you're right. And sometimes you know that you're saying something without any empirical backing, and you might be wrong, but it's okay. Say it anyway. Somebody's going to come and school you, which is good.
That's awesome. I feel like there's a lot of your music career that helps you in your role as someone leading design. Is that true?
No, it is true. It is true. But look. I think I get credited for my work, and I feel very happy. I feel delighted when I get credited for my work. But I also need to sometimes acknowledge that I come from an engineering background, like no formal training in design. I have never really designed. I think I'm probably a 3
Yeah,
on
actually,
10.
I wanted to go there.
Yeah.
You've never actually formally gone to any design
No,
school.
no,
You
formal.
became a designer because as an engineer you started doing HTML.
Not just that. I mean, HTML was easy, right? Look, that's the thing that average people do, right? C++ is too tough. So hello JavaScript. You know, so that's how I started. Yeah, I mean, as in I started doing that, and then also I have to be grateful to the job I had at Adobe. All my customers were designers. The software that I got a chance to build made me. I started with Macromedia. I used to build Flash, Flex, Illustrator, Photoshop. Any of those products that I got a chance to work with were consumed by designers. And what happens is when you spend a lot of time with designers, you understand that archetype. You understand what drives them. You understand what they are passionate about. What are those values that they want to hold on to very closely. And these are not designers, so to speak, right? The guys who are in Photoshop or Illustrator are people that call themselves artists.
Yeah.
And they have an artist state of mind, and not necessarily, see, artists have a very different emotional makeup and different bent of mind. So I got a lot of time with them, and it shaped me as a human to understand them. So I am that groupie, you understand, right? Like, when you really like a band, you're with them always. Like, if they are playing, you go there. You wear the merchandise. You buy tickets, and you're right backstage. You're sometimes carrying their bags if you can, and eventually you become the number one groupie that the band knows by the name. So I was that for designers. See, I was somebody that designers understood that I was an ally. I know them. I understood them. That's how I started in design. So for me, a lot of credit I get for my profile as a designer is by the people that I have been fortunate to attract, and keep. So why did I say that? So my role as a musician actually helps me attract a certain kind of people into design. See, I think design in any mid to large company is about the quality of designers, front end engineers, and the back end engineers, and also product managers. Like, otherwise, design is just a bunch of dead pixels sitting in Dribble or Figma or Behance, which helps you find another job, hopefully. So otherwise, design is largely meaningless in itself. Me as a musician, I have just understood one thing, and something which I am very passionate about is to be appreciated for what I do. What do artists crave? Of course, they want money. They need to pay the bills. They need to pay the tuition fee. They need to buy cars, and they need to have homes, and they need to have a good life. But if you actually asked any artist, one thing that they will always tell you is that they want to be celebrated. They want to be appreciated. They want to be given a standing ovation at the end of their performance. They want an audience to be knowledgeable enough to know what is the right point to applaud. Like, nothing triggers an artist more than an audience that understood that one thing that he or she did, which was great, that the audience understood. So for me, as a stage performer, as a musician, I thrive on the need for applause. Like, I cannot create something that will not be applauded, which results in me not be very selfless about design, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I have a very flamboyant attitude to design. I want design to be appreciated. I want design to be experienced. See, the whole UX thing that we speak kind of takes away this appreciation away from the equation. It is all about make it easy, make it user friendly, make it something that is invisible, make it something that's. So I am like, my design is extremely visible. It is very pronounced. It is out there to be seen. It is very, very figuratively available to be pursued. So that is the school of thought that I come from, where I believe that even brutalism is very deliberate. If you see brutalist buildings of Europe, they're very deliberate. They don't have a lot of chisel work, but they're very deliberate. If you see any great art, art is very deliberate. So for me, design and art are not two different things. So me as a musician, I try to bring designers who innately believe they're creating art. If you're creating art, two things will happen. Your own conscience will step up, because no artist will create something that is not good enough for him or her. You will not create it. Each one of you asked that question. If you could paint, if you could write poetry, if you could sing, if you could be a DJ, you will not put out a song which you do not like. So it raises your bar automatically. When you have an artist state of mind, your bar is already up because you're answerable to yourself. The second one about artists is that they observe humans really well. No stage performer can ever be successful without some degree of manipulation. Every great artist manipulates. See, somebody who is able to manipulate an audience for the longest period in time turns and becomes a legend. Because singing, dancing, every day is different. You have a great day yesterday, you have a terrible day today, you have a great day tomorrow, spectacular day after, a terrible day after. It's never consistent. But one thing that is consistent is the person's ability to take an audience and make them believe that I am good and this is good for you. So artists do that really, really well. Great artists do that really, really, really well. Which is why tomorrow you go for a Shreya Ghoshal concert and she has a bad voice because of a laryngitis. Nobody's going to say she's a bad singer. You will defend her by saying she's a spectacular singer, just having a bad day. Virat Kohli playing a bad innings, everybody will say, yeah, he's a great classy cricketer, just running bad form, he will come back. For me, attracting designers who continuously seek excellence in creating something where you are appreciated for what you create beyond your mundane will create great products. See, for example, if I am always evaluated on one flow I create, then somebody will say, oh, login flow to fantastic tha, registration flow bakwas hai. You know what you're subjecting yourself to? You are reducing yourself to being a mason. Not that masonry is bad, not that plumbing is bad, not that electrician work is bad. They are innately very thankless way that humans perceive them. How often do you remember the plumber that fixed your bathroom tap leak? How long do you remember him? You will remember him for the next 5 minutes because now the tap is not leaking. You forget. You would always remember the guy that gave that phenomenal painting that is hanging on your drawing room, won't you? Every time you see that, you will say, ye is bande ne diya tha, or this person gave me. Or somebody that really did that beautiful sculpture in your garden. Every time you see that sculpture, you would remember, oh, this was done by this great artist. Somebody that fixed the hose pipe, which is actually watering the garden, is a utilitarian person. You don't really remember that person. So you need to understand, where do you need to belong? Sometimes you can just be a manpower consultancy kind of company where I have great efficiency, great excellence. I'll continuously keep chipping because all I'm trying to create is I give you value, so you pay me for the value. So I come from a place where you will build gross margins when people value you beyond what you provide. Otherwise, you'll always be valued only for what you provide. Which is why a Louis Vuitton bag is not a bag. You don't necessarily discuss what is the storage in it. You don't necessarily discuss how many pockets does it have. You don't really discuss whether it has got an NFC chip inside it. You don't do that primarily because that object is valued for something else and not for being a bag. If you see any great businesses that are at high gross margins right now, which are not in ERP or enterprise space, are all non-commodities. What does Airbnb sell? We might just think that they are selling rooms. They're not. Their whole premise was, and Mona should answer this, and more eloquently than me, I'll request her to do that because she has probably the longest legacy with Airbnb. I love Airbnb because it opened its arms to somebody's life, somebody's culture, somebody's place, somebody's home, and something that they kept for themselves. What is beautiful about a BNB? Like, if you are not there, it was a person's home. Now, the situation has changed right now. People build homes for making a BNB right now, but that's not how it started. That's clearly not how it started. So that is not. And when Uber started in this thing, anybody remembers what was Uber's first ever tagline? Anybody here knows? No one?
Your personal chauffeur.
Everybody's private driver. They never said we are a taxi company. They never said they are a taxi aggregator. You know what experience Uber sold you? You can get out of a taxi like how you got out of your own car. And for that, what did they build? They built card on file first. The onboarding, see, if you would always wonder, onboarding mein card kyun mang rahe? Because onboarding mein card was taken, the product worked like everybody's private driver. If that card on file was not there, at the end of the ride, you will be asked, sir, please pay. If you are paying, then you became a taxi company. Because you're not a taxi company, you got repivoted. So for me, I just try to create every product that I try to build. And of course, if I have the leverage, liberty, and privilege, and thankfully, I started early at CRED, one of the earliest people over here. I started at a position of privilege, trying to build some of these things, which is what I apply at my design philosophy. So it is about creating value beyond the actual value you can provide. Any product that is able to do that has always had high gross margins, which is why Apple never has to put out a picture of their camera. Instead, they can put a photo of some random dude that he took and say shot with iPhone. It is the biggest example of how they are not selling the camera anymore. They're actually selling triumph of a person. They're actually showing what you can achieve with the product. So for me, that is the principle and philosophy that I try to operate with. Now, if I was working at SAP Labs, this is like really a stupid conversation. This is not what I should be doing there. Or if I'm trying to build Excel, no, but I'm building a B2C product. Like at least I am a B2C designer. So anybody who's in the B2C realm, some of what I'm saying is meaningful. But if you're building a really sophisticated enterprise product, please assume you didn't hear me. Because none of what I said is actually meaningful there. Because it operates on very different principles and very different ideas. But I just spoke as a passionate B2C consumer internet B2C digital physical product person, and this is how I operate. I hope you should definitely speak about a little bit about the whole Airbnb principles. I would love to hear it as well. Like when we started.
Yeah, Airbnb started with the principle of basically helping you travel like a local. That was our first tagline. Travel like a human was the first tagline. Then it became travel like a local, and the the pitch on the website always used to talk about how you're not traveling to a place. You're not looking for a hotel, but you're looking to build memories that will last a lifetime. And every PR pitch that Brian did was always about if you live in a hotel, it's a lifeless experience. Everything is the same thing. It doesn't matter whether you go to a Hilton in Budapest or you go to a Hilton in Rome. It'll all feel the same. But if you went and lived at an Airbnb with a host who lived in Rome versus the one that lived in Budapest, they'll have very unique stories to tell, and those will be the memories that you will that will be etched for life. That you will use to recollect and share your experiences on why you should go to Budapest. And his one of our key metrics of that we tracked internally was how many people recommended Budapest after they went to Budapest.
The place, not even the place you stayed.
Just the location, because it gave you a special experience that you would not have otherwise ever talked about.
Yeah, fascinating, I think.
So I definitely think that the word experience, especially for digital products, cannot be limited to flows. It's an emotion, and there are many things more than
absolutely
sort of just optimizing for button clicks.
And you know something, and I feel really terrible that many of us do this to ourselves and to others. You are just a quote unquote. That's where the problem is. When you are just a quote unquote insert your product there or your product's functionality there, I think you start losing right at that point. Like, if you actually said any great product that you are just this, then you have actually gotten it all wrong. So an attempt that I have as a designer, and you all should have as product design engineering people, is can people love what you're creating beyond what it offers? Like, that is how we love our parents, that's how we love our children, that's how we love things that we love, right? If you just imagined every time you looked at your own car and said, oh, you are just a machine that takes me from point A to point B, uh, such a vehicle will not have a place in your life. Which is why when somebody says, oh, you are just somebody who is selling coffee, you are just somebody who is selling soap, you are just somebody who is selling recharges, you are just somebody who is selling mattresses, you will never be successful. How much ever great your flows are, how much ever well tweaked your funnels are, how much ever user friendly quote unquote your screens are, people just think of you as a completely forgettable value and service provider. Like, if you are a value and service provider, you are always going to be replaced by somebody else who is going to play the same game as you but better. Greatest of products are always built beyond the value that they provide. See, for example, people defend things that you really love. See, if you actually observe, cars is a very common category. Like, anybody who owns a um, what brand of car do you think has the greatest loyal following? Anybody into automobiles here who can react? Volkswagen is a great example. Volvo, BMW for sure. Volkswagen owners will defend those cars to death. They are not really talking about Toyota has better flow. They're not going to say Toyota has better mileage. No, I am a Volkswagen person. How many of your products have that precision? अच्छा वो better होगा लेकिन मैं यही use करेगा. That will not come from tweaking your funnel. That will not come from improving your copy. That will not come from doing A/B test as to which color of blue do you want to choose. That will not come from an A/B test, a focus group meeting where you got 20 people to come in. One person has had a fight with his girlfriend. Another person just actually got pulled up by an auto driver. The third person is just having bad finances. The fourth person is actually recovering from COVID. Fifth person just his girlfriend said yes. This kind of diverse group of people on a focus group, what feedback are you going to get? Like, it is going to be colored by the emotions of those people. And every qual researcher that I know secretly accepts this is true. And you will say, no, we'll ask what is it called? We'll ask non-confirmative questions. We will ask
non-leading questions.
Yeah, every question in this world is a leading question. There is no such thing called a non-leading question. You would like to believe that something is a non-leading question. You ask me a non-leading question, I corroborate that with my state of mind and make it a leading question. Harish, how are you feeling? Is it a leading question or a non-leading question? What is it?
Non-leading.
It is a non-leading question. You didn't. Now I can react by saying, why? What makes you feel so? Do I look sick? I don't look nice right now. I just turned it into a leading question where I assumed that you actually saw something in me to ask that question. You were generally asking me, Harish, are you fine? Which is why these signals I do not believe. They do not work. It all depends upon how do I see, for example, somebody who has had 4 payment failures on a payment platform, and the 5th day you call that dude for a focus group study to say that, is this UI looking good? He'll immediately have that memory only. Your buy payment failed 4 times, your UI sucks. Actually, the UI doesn't suck. Your payment UI was different. This is the login UI. But I asked non-leading questions only. So what I'm trying to say is, it is important to build beyond what people think you are offering. I think I strongly, if there is something that I believe so strongly, it is that. When I say Michelin, what do you remember? No. Beyond the tires, do you remember anything? A lot of people that don't know cars know Michelin as a restaurant rating company.
Yes.
Why did Michelin rate restaurants? Why is Coke doing Coke Studio? What has Coke got to do with music anyway? That to South Asia's local music. Why is Nescafe doing Nescafe basement? See, pretty much all products that have been successful have attempted to build an identity beyond the core offering of the product. If I want to leave you guys with one thing, if you are continuously chipping away to make the value of your product better and then believe that you get customer love, I want to polarize again, you're wrong. You will not get customer love. You'll have no loyalty. It is like your UPI scanner. You scan the first one, it is taking a little longer, you will ruthlessly close it and open the next one. You feel nothing for it. Absolutely nothing. And what you have is actually habit, not love. A lot of us confuse habit to user love. Habits can be easily tweaked by perversely incentivizing. Love can't be tweaked by perversely incentivizing. Like, I cannot suddenly start loving somebody else's daughter just because you actually gave me $1 million in bank. No, it doesn't happen. I love my daughter. It is unconditional. It is beyond what value she brings to me. But if I am habituated to loving the dog on the street and tomorrow somebody comes and says, that's my dog, then okay, fine. I feel bad. The dog is gone. But then you start liking the next dog on the road. That's because innately there, what happens is like you had a habit of, the dog is a bad example, people love dogs. But if you see habits are easy to break. Passion, love, commitment to a product or a brand is for life. Which is why as product people, I'll humbly fold my hands and request, look beyond the value that you provide at every single instance. And sometimes they will be frivolous things. Extremely frivolous things bring love. Extremely meaningless things how many people here are from an engineering college?
Everybody.
So sorry. Anyway, me too.
Me too.
The problem we all have is that we have gotten objectively conditioned to operate like algorithms. Like we believe humans operate like a software program. We just believe that humans understand reason. I just want to tell you that we as engineers ourselves don't understand reason. We are just emotional people. We just have a unique blessing of applying reason to things, which is why we are able to solve problems. But when you're building products, tackle the emotion. And as long as you have tackled the emotion and told people that, they will start forgiving everything that you do wrongly. But if you have only been a servant to somebody, you will not be forgiven for your mistakes because people have a sense of servitude in their head that like you're here to serve. So you screw up once, I'm immediately going to go on Twitter and badmouth you. That's what we do, right? Like we would have done a transaction for... See, Indigo is a classic example. Anybody here would have flown Indigo so many times because what else will you fly anyway? And then one day your luggage doesn't come. Third minute you're on Twitter. Indigo sucks, I'm never going to fly you again. Oh, are you kidding me? You'll fly tomorrow only. Nobody else flies you there. Only they are flying. They also know that. Like replace Indigo with anything that you regularly use. The point is, if you built good brand love or the love for your product beyond the fact that there's a small error that happened, people will continue to use and probably sometimes even go ahead and defend you. Before I stop, Mona, I want to ask, is there any product here that you defend like that? Which one? You defend Zomato. Do you work there? Okay. Some insider conflict there, but anyway, I get it. No, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. I just had to make a joke about it. No, I understand. How about you, sir? Wow, man. Figma. The mirror doesn't work. Okay, fight me. The mirror doesn't work. Okay. Cool. Anything, any other product, like any other non-digital product? Yeah. Any non-digital? Royal Enfield, great example. Royal Enfield is one category of product humans go to any extent to defend. How did they build that product? I mean, now the argument is not whether the bike works or not. Of course it works. It's a really nice bike. But it is There is something beyond that product has created, that it gets user love. Like, so I can go on and on. So my only thing that I would...
What's the product you defend?
The product that I defend? Several, actually. In digital, you want...
Anything.
In digital, a product that I would defend is booking.com. I have had issues with them.
Have you tried Airbnb?
Airbnb, I've had no problems to be wanting to defend it. See, booking, I have had it. See, you will only have to defend when you have issues. Like, you have... When you know that this
products?
aspect, Apple mouse, the magic mouse, I'll defend that product to death. Because that is one polarizing product. No. Every time I say magic mouse is nice, some idiot will have a photo of that mouse charging like this. Like, bro, it takes 2 minutes to charge. Go have a coffee. And after that, it looks nice. It's almost like telling, like, you look really terrible when you're in the washroom. Don't come to the washroom. Nobody looks nice when they're actually taking a dump. Like, you finish and then come out. Do you look nice is what you should like the mouse. It's almost like, I want to be working. My working desk is actually on my toilet commode. Is really stupid. It doesn't work like that. So charging a mouse is not a time that he uses. So this is Harish defending the magic mouse. You saw a demonstration. So that is because I believe Apple products optimize for aesthetics more than utility sometimes. I think that's the right way to build, because that's the only way to cut clutter. Some products, for example, you still can't... I was at Adobe, I'll tell you the story, back in the day, in 2007, when the first iPad launched. And we were all watching the Steve Jobs keynote, and one thing stuck to me. The first iPad launched without Bluetooth, when all Android devices had Bluetooth. Do you know what Steve Jobs said? He said, Bluetooth is not mature enough to be on my device. He started by saying, my device... I mean, look, he didn't put Bluetooth in it. That's the truth. But the point, the position was that I will not... And I was one of the people who actually said, Bluetooth se kya karna hai? So, for me, getting to that degree of... This is what we call as fanboyism, right? Getting to that degree of defending something downright wrong also is what successful high gross margin products do. Like, you speak proudly about the wait time. Oh, I booked this car. The wait time is 7.5 months. Is it good UX? It's terrible UX. But it became signaling. मैं 7 महीना wait करके लेगा गाड़ी. While you can go and buy the other car, you will get it day after tomorrow. But same नहीं है. 7 months later, I'll get this car. I am the dude, right? So, unfortunately, in digital products, we are generally taught, and also your product and the market and the funding ecosystem and the general macroeconomic climate all teaches you to work the other way around. Basically, you have to show quick progress, you have to show quick growth, you have to show quick LTV, you have to show ARPU, you have to show... So it is a continuous game that you have to play. But if you continuously played only one game, and by the end of it all, you just understand that you have a product or a brand that you created that nobody really cares about. And they will switch like that. And people don't switch out of great products because they focused on the non-tangibles. So why am I saying that? That is something that I would really, really say from my own experience and in all humility for all of us to consider. Like, once we have identified that about our products and we have worked very hard towards it, I can tell you from so many different lived experiences that it builds a better product, a better brand, because there's no better product than a product that your customer loves. Don't confuse it to a product that your customer uses. They're very, very different. Like, customer love, and we can discuss it offline if you ever get a chance. The customer love can be created by 20,000 different ways, and brand is only one of them. So
Tell
I'll
us
say
three.
that also.
Tell us three top ways to build customer love.
Keep promises. Only promise what you can deliver and keep it. Don't overpromise and deliver lesser. Like, if you can only do 1, 2, 3, just do only 1, 2, and 3, but do them really, really well. The second one is optimize for what is good in mid to long term than immediate discomfort. How do I...
Give us an example of that.
BlackBerry to iPhone?
Okay.
it was hard to move from a physical QWERTY to a touchscreen QWERTY, but it had to be done. Somebody had to do it because everybody believed that that haptic feedback that comes from the plastic keypad is the only way humans can type. One dude has to stand up and say, sorry, no, I'm just going to take that plastic keypad away and I'm going to put a software keyboard over there, and we will change the innate available human behavior for the greater good. And the greater good happened. Automatic transmission is another example. It is the most non-standardized UX ever. No two cars have the same way of transmission dial. Some cars have a dial. Mercedes has a lever which looks like your indicator. BMWs have a joystick. Older Audis have a proper stick. These Range Rovers and some of the newer Tata cars have a dial. The Chevys have a switch. So it is very non-standard. But automatic transmission is a thing. Now, that behavior change has driven in people saying, I will learn, depending upon. The same thing with indicator versus wiper. How many people are into cars here? Because I have so many automotive examples. Indicator to wiper is a classic conundrum, right? German cars versus Japanese cars. It just gets switched on the opposite side. It just takes about... See, always when you move to a German car from a Japanese car, you are switching on the wiper a few times. It is annoying. But now the German car in India is not going to switch it back to the other side just because their customer ka habit hai. Habits are there to be broken. So which is what in design sometimes you're generally taught, no, don't fix if it's not broken. Everything is broken. Like, understand how broken it is and fix it. Like assuming that something is not broken is almost like saying we are living in a perfect world and nothing needs to change. So that is the second thing that I will do, which actually, because the customers will appreciate you 6 months down the line. Oh, thank you. You did that at that point in time. It was annoying for me for the first 2 to 3 weeks, but then I quickly understood the value of it. Now I love it. That's the second one. The third one is create something that people emotionally connect to than people rationally connect to. Because our brain is actually, at the risk of sounding a little politically incorrect, the gross margins drop as you move the thinking organ from top to the bottom of your body. Least gross margin increases and the gross margin further increases. So basically, you need to understand that brands that people love actually will get used, will get propagated, will get referred, and will get the kind of LTV that you hope, than products that are like your Ramu Kaka. You always feel that you are serving the product, like the product is serving you and you owe nothing to it. This is exactly what happens to products that don't build innately brand love. So if there are 3 things I want to mention, keep your promises. 1. Second one, create enough brand love. Second one is what? I spoke a lot about it.
Think for the long term.
Play for the longer run. Break some habits. Break some loops. Create something that is good for them. Every familiar pattern was an unfamiliar pattern on day 0. As simple as that. So building for familiarity is a myth. You don't have to unnecessarily make the steering into a square just because familiar is a bad thing. That's stupidity. So we should understand what is stupid versus what is tangible. So those are my 3. And if you ask other product people, they'll give you so many of them which you can prune and make it appropriate for you.
Awesome. We're going to pick 3 questions and then free form, everybody can talk to each other, hang out with Harish and other folks. So anyone has a question?
Good one. So thanks for asking. I think I'll develop on what I said. I think I agree with you. As you iterate, things get better. My statement was with respect to what is your own standard for your first baseline. For me, that baseline, from the basis of what I said, that baseline is the best you could have built at that point in time. Sometimes what happens is that attitude is not present. The attitude itself is like, itna sab load nahi lete hai, फटाफट से इधर से उधर कुछ डाल के निकाल देते हैं, उसके बाद डेटा आएगा, behavior आएगा. No. You have to build it like this is the last iteration you'll ever build. My point was that if you were to die the next day, morbid, I know, but if you were to die the next day, you should be insanely proud of the detail that you drove into that release. Now, the detail you can drive in a release which gave you only like 2.5 weeks of sprint time will not look like a release that you can do in 2.5 years. I am aware, you are aware. So that's not the point. But there is general slack attitude which says, quickly get something done. Quickly, you can't get anything done. You have to act as if in the 2 months, the 2 weeks that you got, have you given your everything to finish that product in a way that you feel proud that today if I had to ship it, see, Aman, I'll tell you, we always caveat na. Yeah, you know what the common caveat are here? Yeah, Harish, iska UI mat dekho. It starts like this. तो क्या देखूं? डेमो लेके आ रहे हो मेरे पास. The first thing is, Harish, इसका UI मत देखो. Second one is like, इसका visuals मत देखो. The third statement is like, some of the copy is not fine. और क्या review करा रहे हो? Then they'll say, नहीं, हमको fail fast करना है. वो तो confirm हो गया, हो जाएगा. So my point is, just put in that right effort. Write the best copy you can. Get the best visual design you can. Get the best transition design you can. Get the best API optimization you can. And of course, like you rightly mentioned, it will take 17 iterations to become that product that you really want. But attitudinally, are you a person by saying, quickly कुछ बना के फटाफट से test कर देते हैं, is the worst way to build. I haven't seen a single product that has worked which is built like that. They will all give the engineers, designers and product managers some kind of perverse happiness की फटाफट से निकाला. फर्क नहीं आएगा. बस निकल गया.
Awesome.
100%. 100%. So, look, I think the good part, like, please sit down, yeah. So, look, I think environment is everything. Like, if you don't have an environment that fosters free, fearless communication and questioning of ideas, you are largely building an environment of fear. An environment of fear will never foster excellence. Right? Like, for example, if you have bureaucracy, you have power distance, your pecking order, you have who can you say what, or whose opinion is more valuable basis the rank that they hold, are all terrible environments to be in. And unfortunately, those environments exist in some form, because it's humans after all, right? Even in this utopia that I'm talking about, there are egos at play, right? Like, suddenly, like somebody who is sitting and is passionately talking about it, an intern walks up and says, like, yeah, kya bakwas bol rahe ho? Your ego generally gets ticked off at that point, and you need a very big, eloquently structured heart at that point to stop and reflect as to how you got interrupted. So, yeah, I think trying to work and contribute yourself to such an environment is very important. But if you see an environment where you know categorically that this is not going to happen, pack your bags and run. I don't think you'll ever learn unless you have severely limiting life situations where you have to stick around and do it till you find something else, because we are all victims and victors of circumstances that comes in our life. So that's for me. I didn't get your name, sir. Jishank. You're the first Jishank I know. Yeah. So, so Jishank, I have just been fortunate for the most. I have had my own tryst with the opposite in my career, but for the most, I have been provided with the environment where we have this word that we use here, which I recently learned, called radical candor. It's a new word, and I use it everywhere to sound intelligent. It is a blessing that organizations let you have that. And if you are at a position of power, if you have the privilege to do anything at your organization, my humble request is that please do foster it and please do create it. I'm sure you already are, but please do push in more so that the ones that come after you will imbibe from you and do a good job. We are not really non-tangible, man. Everybody at CRED, every individual at CRED or any company for that matter, I don't even want to speak in CRED. We are all dispensable. I wake up in the morning and say that we are all I don't know how we are intangible or tangible.
No,
I don't know. You just zapped me. No, see, I don't know. I think we are all tangible or intangible basis, whichever lens you want to wear, and we are all dispensable. I generally believe that every individual here and in the larger world that we are living in, we are all pretty dispensable. That is where I want to start. See, I don't want to speak a lot specifically to CRED because we are no different from any other company. Like, you're all trying to build products to serve a bunch of people that you identify as a customer. CRED is an earnest company. CRED is a company that is trying to build software in the domains that we operate to actually create the best possible, most meaningful, most loved, most beautiful, and most sustainable sort of experiences for our users. And in return, we hope that our earnestness, our hard work, and the effort that we make to build a good product is appropriately accepted, and it helps us build a better product, a better organization moving forward. So, me, Kunal, any person at CRED, if you ask, that is the goal that everybody is chasing, because every other company that we speak over here, at principal level is no different. We are all trying to create meaningful products and create a meaningful difference to people that we call as our customers. So tangible, intangible, or dispensable, I think the goal is just to keep pushing, just keep working very hard, and just keep doing what you do. Take feedback, learn, understand what is feedback and what is shit posting, and make your product better and make yourself better. Thank you. I'll speak very vulnerable. Thank you for asking. I'll try to be as vulnerable as possible. If there was one thing in my life where I could find a silver bullet to solve for this feeling, that would be excellent. For example, it breaks my heart every day. There's one big heartbreaking thing I wake up to every day morning, is that. But to your question, I would only say this. I show up every day. Something which I've learned through my life is to show up. By showing up, what you mean is show up in full. You know that you're not ready for it, but still show up. Keep watching the ones that are better than you, do it. Keep looking at them. Bring them coffee. I literally have no problem like just being that person who's ordering pizza, bringing them coffee, just sit down with them. And there is this thing that one of my seniors at Adobe taught me. When you are at the first day at the gym, and you are very ambitious to actually have a body like the people who are working out there, the first step is to show up every day. Second step is to tuck your stomach and smile. So that is what I'm doing. Like, the first step is to actually tuck your stomach, smile, and know that this is where you need to get to. But if you actually untuck your stomach, you are still very flabby, and you're not there. It is the reality of you is that you're not there. But if you start doing that and then start working towards where you want to get, 9 out of 10 times, you will be halfway through. You may never see, some people are natural. I'll tell you, see, some people are just natural. I have had this opportunity to be in, I'm a big fan of singer Hariharanji. So I had a unique fortune of sitting down with him in a hotel room. I have been his fan for 30 years. And I sat in the room only to realize that he's a natural. And despite the best of effort and 16 hours of practice, I'm never going to be like him. But, showing up there and coming back made me believe that I can be halfway there. Like, I can be probably quarter my way there. And that is, I think, very, very important. So my reaction to your question is that no matter where you are, I think it's important to show up. I think it is important to keep telling that tomorrow better than today better than yesterday, and so on and so forth. And just keep pushing. I have been pushing. I really want to do so many things in my life, in my art and in my design. And when I see somebody who's like a super natural, somebody who's innately gifted, it breaks my heart. Like, the first reaction that comes to me is like, how much more life do I have left in me to actually even get to her level or his level? It breaks my heart. But the short answer is I'm just not going to give up. I am going to show up in front of that person every day, to be told that I'm inferior, to be told that I'm not as good, to be shown that I'm not as good, but I'm still going to show up. I'm going to very vulnerably tell you that it crushed my ego to no end. it makes me sad. Sometimes it makes me frustrated, but I do it every day. Like, it is a deeply saddening feeling sometimes that despite your best effort, some natural dude just walked in and just waltzed his way through it. And then you think, bro, I have been working for 3.5 weeks for this. And you just came in without any practice, just came and did it and went. It breaks my heart. It continues to break my heart. So I wish I had one way or the other to tell anyone here, but just show up. Yeah. I think I'm showing up. I'm sure you're showing up too. So let's see what best we can push ourselves to. And there's always going to be somebody better than us. Unfortunately, that's Darwinian. Can't really help. So I would answer the first part first. I'll be honest. The first part of your question is, with this obsessive focus on making things to look good, has ever the other part of it, or the complementary part of it, that it should actually work really well, ever gotten compromised? Why would I lie? Yes, it has. From time to time, yes. Um, my humble and not so humble, I'll say both of them, response to that is, I would fix for it. Like, I probably obsessively focused on the way something is looking and dropped the ball on the way it works, or it dropped the promise on the basic premise of what it should do. If I have dropped the ball on that, if my team has dropped the ball on that, the first thing I would do is step up and fix that. I would do that. And has it happened? The answer is yes. Is it bound to happen even in future when you actually start building the products? The answer is yes. But what I would do to that is, I will work extra hard to make sure that I don't drop the ball in that. What I somehow wouldn't do is drop my standards on the other side. I would never drop my standards on my unfettered obsession to make something beautiful. I will work 16 hours extra to get the thing to work really well. I will not take 1 hour off that time to make something work better. That is not optional. That is not an afterthought. That is not something I fix after I get something to work. These are parallel activities, equally important. Something working well and something looking good for me are the same thing. It is not like, if Harish, what would you trade off whether the app works well or the app looks good? My answer is, sorry, I won't trade off anything. I'll probably trade off the release date by 2 weeks. That's what I would do. Something has to look good is an ingrained principle of mine. It has to have perfectly polished visual design with the margins, paddings, typography, kerning to be like how I put it on Figma is a non-negotiable. That is the principle that I come from. Now, because of that obsession, did something like really work badly? Or there is one more controversial thing. In the need to make something beautiful, did you make it really hard for the customer? That's the other question that typically comes. Like, it is almost like, why did you make a door so ornate? A simple door could have been just fine. So I will, Mona, if you let me, I'll just disambiguate that one in a bit. The second question about was specifically about a product, Amazon. Look, I genuinely believe that I don't want to speak about a product that I have not built, and I do not know what that company wants to build or what their product philosophies are and what they want to do. So it is not in my agency to speak about that. But what I believe in is, be truthful to what you believe is what you want to create. Like, if you are thinking that my biggest strength is A, B, and C, and I'm going to focus on that, and I don't have any belief in D, C, and E, it is a fair position to have. Like, in my case, that A, B, and C that I believe in has visual design in it. Tomorrow, when you are building, in your A, B, and C, it may not be there. Now, that is a position you are taking, and I really hope that position is being taken by considering the market, the customer, and the gross margins and the TAM that you have. And nobody has any business telling you one way or the other. See, when I am building my stuff, I have absolute clarity that my TAM, this is what it needs. So I am focusing on that. That's how I'll answer it. The last one is an interesting thing that I have been spending time on. how much effort should you put on something that does a very simple thing, which is where almost always this door logic gets thrown. Like, let me ask you, why do you think a church has really large doors? I don't have an answer. I've never built a church, but I have hypotheses. And you might have one too. I'm just curious to know. Anybody in this room, not specifically to you, ma'am, but anybody that has got a plausible hypothesis on why places of worship have structures that are very non-utilitarian and components that are very uncommonly seen in utility spaces. Any hypotheses in the room? Very close to my hypothesis. She didn't have a mic, so I'll just repeat what she said. Places of worship, the word itself has worship. You worship something. And the deity inside a place of worship, no matter what the belief system, is somebody that is considered superior to the person who is worshipping. Now, I will tell you, there are two ways to build products: physical, digital, metaphorical. One is that I believe is the governmental way of building. What is a governmental way of building software? What is a government really? In a participative democracy, a government is a simple idea where everybody who will be touched by the government has the agency to elect the government on the premise of 5 to 6 promises that the government makes to you, which is called the manifesto. Correct? So there are manifestos basis which you believe, yes, this particular system of governance, this is the party or this is the group that I'm going to elect to power. And then what you do continuous audit of them to see if they are doing a good job. And at the end of what is called as a tenure, you evaluate the manifesto to what they did. And if they have done well, you give them the mandate and they rule for another tenure. Now, the principle of this is that you are elected to serve. And you serve well, keep promises, and do a good job, I will give you another opportunity to serve. Now, this is one way of building, and a ton of companies have built software and continuously obsess on it. See, these are the ones that say place the customer right at the center, no matter what. Wake up in the morning, look at the customer metrics, look at your CS tickets, look at the calls that is coming. It's a spectacularly great way to build products. Like, and you have 100 examples of great products being built like this. And for the next 100 years, great products will be built like this. Now, there is an alternate way of building products, which is the religion way of building products, where religion doesn't serve the devotee. Devotee serves the religion. There, your gross margins are 50x. Because leaving a religion is blasphemy. Leaving a government is nothing. And when you build it in the religious way, just the way, ma'am, you articulated, the pratishtha, the deity in the temple is bigger than the devotee. The brand is bigger than the customer. The offering is bigger than the customer. And devotees then come together to make that congregation a better place. No religion or cult can ever grow if it doesn't bring value. Like, what is the value the religion offers? It brings people together. It teaches virtue. It teaches people to come and do things together and generally overall create a self-support mechanism that brings people together. This is exactly what government also does, except for the fact that you have elected representatives in government. The other one is very participative, which is what you've seen in Sikh community. Why do they come together to actually serve? That's because the religion binds you together. In Annadanam that happens in Hindu temples, people come together and serve. Or Sunday masses that happen in Christian places of worship. So the logic there is to actually create an entity which is more powerful than the entities that use it, which results in the following. It creates great stickiness. It creates a great idea of community. It makes it extremely hard to leave. It creates inheritance, something that digital people don't think. But you know why a Patek Philippe watch is so important? People buy it and give it to their children. And then they give it to their children. a lot of other products that are generally consumed are not thought with an idea of inheritance. So that is the other way of building. So if you choose the latter, which is what I just mentioned, you will polish the door and maybe put a knob that will require some training to use. I'm not going to make it simple because the principle is if I have to create stickiness, you need rituals. Those rituals sometimes are not created with simplicity in mind. Rituals are created with repeatability, belief, habit, and inheritance in mind, which is why a Tamil Iyengar caste person wears a namam like this. It is a branding. The child will also wear it. The child's child will also wear it. Now, which is why Bangalore Club, on a hot summer afternoon, you can't wear your Crocs and Bermudas to go and grab a beer there. It is great UX would have been walk in with whatever you have and go and have a beer. That's fantastic UX. No, you have to wear a blazer and dress shoe over there. But there is also Bangalore Club that will last for the longest. All the bars will close down. Why do clubs last for hundreds of thousands of years? Because they do certain things ritualistically. Why do religions last for so long? Because they actually brand you, they make you participate in rituals, and sometimes these rituals are passed down to a degree where you don't even question them. Like, unless the rituals start questioning the social fabric, which is what happened with Sati, or which is what happened with someone where it innately started harming the believer. It started harming the devotee. That is when they start getting questioned, because anything that doesn't touch you badly, you don't question it. That is how cults are built. That's how religions are built. And in my head, it will be very hard for some administration to actually bring down Taj Mahal to build a 16-lane highway. It will not be possible. If it was an apartment complex, they'll bomb it and then give you compensation and ask you to go elsewhere. That is the difference between building for utility and building for longer term. So I come from the school of thought that if you build for utility, you'll always be like a government. You're perpetually on your feet. You'll always be questioned. You'll always be in a position to answer, serve. It is good. Somebody wants to play that game, they can play that game. They can continue. The other side is take the painstaking route, create a brand, create a cult, create rituals, create things that are not user-friendly, but things that you do because now you are part of it. Like, Harley owners group. Anybody who owns a Harley here? Any biker groups, for that matter, if you observe, you will see that they have rituals. You cannot be part of that group. So that is the other way to build products. I will not tell or preach or recommend one approach or the other to anybody over here. I have mine. I follow that. And that may or may not work for you. So, which is why I said, some user experiences will come in the way of ease of the customer. I'm a big fan of doing that. Because once they have learnt it, they will not leave it. Once you have made somebody do something, it becomes a thing. It becomes a baton that you hold on to. Like, that is what I say. In Kerala, men are supposed to take their shirt off to enter a temple. Kerala is sultry. Kerala is warm. It's sticky. It's humid. It's uncomfortable to take a shirt off. But that is one thing you cannot question. Because of that, what happens? It builds a sense of communion. People come together. And when something virtuous needs to happen, these people will come together. If you just dilute that by saying, use Zoom to pray in this temple, you have diluted the brand. You can technically say that, use an e-app to just pray, or I can just webcast the Sanctum Sanctorum to you, sit at the convenience of your drawing room and play is much better UX. It's very comfortable. It doesn't break the habit. It won't stick. So you need to ask yourself, what sort of stickiness are you looking to build? What sort of product are you looking to build? If you take option A, play that game. Hundreds of companies have played that and become trillion-dollar companies by simply obsessing over customer over again. At the risk of any designer talking, Apple is a classic example of company B, where Apple is like, you don't need this phone, but you'll still buy it. They didn't create it by providing you extra value than Android. They actually give you lesser. But you'll still go ahead and defend it. That's because that's how that product was built. That's how the philosophy of that product was built. A G63 by Mercedes doesn't even have enough features as a Kia. But it sells at 4.5 crores. And people stand in line to buy it. Why? Where does that irrationality come from? Why does a fully rational human take an irrational choice like that? Is for you to ponder as to why some of those things happen. Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, we can keep going and we can be here all night. But thank you so much, Harish.
Thank you, Mona. It was fun.
Very
Thank
kind
you.
of you to spend your Saturday evening with us.
My pleasure.
And if you're around, maybe
I'm here for some more. What time is it? My watch is saying 4 o'clock.
7:30.
7:30.
I
Okay.
wish it was.
I'm here until. I'm here for a bit. Anyway, I'm going back to work. So
awesome. So you guys can walk up to him, ask questions if you have any. But objective is to get to know each other, spend some time. Hopefully, this inspires you, makes you think a little bit harder. Last event we did, a lot of people reached out to us asking to stay connected with the people they met. And to do that, we're just going to kick off a Slack community. You guys can stay in touch.
this is cool.
Yeah, and then this is not a community that is going to be, objective is not to wake up every day and listen and have someone from Abraze send you a message. It is for you guys to power it and for you guys to kind of, share your thoughts and learn from each other. So at the end of this event, we'll send a link to your WhatsApp. You guys can join if you find value in it, engage and hopefully learn from it. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mona. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.